Hello, everyone. You're listening to Cinema 5000. My name is Mallory. This is my podcast, and on this episode, we'll be talking about 5 films. The current count we are at is 5,831 films. Now, before we get into the movies, I want to follow up to an email I recently received from a listener. Thank you so much for your email, listener. The listener brought up a question about ratings because they have checked out my Letterboxd. And if you haven't been on Letterboxd to check out my account, my username is Mallory with 3 M's. So MMMALLORY. The question was about my star ratings and how I weigh my ratings. And this person queried specifically about like my 2.5 star rating compared to their rating. So thank you again for the email. When I rate something 2.5 stars or lower, you can kind of think of that as like a thumbs down. But I will say specifically for 2.5 stars, that's kind of like the middle of the road, the like, mixed bag. Maybe I liked something about the movie, maybe had some problems with it. Kind of enjoyed myself, but also was kind of like, it's not so great. So 2.5, it's all right. It's something. 2 stars is kind of like, this isn't working for me. 1.5 is like, this really isn't working for me, and I have a lot of things I don't like about it. And 1 star is no, absolutely not. Half star is saved for those absolutely terrible, abysmal movies that I hate so much. And luckily we don't have a half star rating on this episode, but we do have a 1 star rating. And now everything 3 stars or higher, that's, a good film. 3 stars is kind of like I enjoyed it. It's good. Sort of similar how like Roger Ebert does his ratings. Now he only used to go up to 4 stars, but I try to stay the same. Now 4.5 and 5 stars are for like absolutely like the best movies I've ever seen in my life. And I try not to use that very often because I tend to think if you're gonna earn that kind of rating for me, 4.5 or 5, depends how I'm feeling, this better be something that I feel like I want to watch again, and on that second review it really cements itself as being that amazing. So yeah, 3 stars, that's a thumbs up, it's a good time. 3.5 is like, ooh, this was good, but it had some things about it that I'm really like into, and it kind of was like a little bit better than good. It's like very good. And then I would say excellent is 4 stars, and like best thing I've ever seen maybe is 4.5 and 5 stars. So those are more rare, but yeah. So if you ever are on Letterboxd, I know people rate things all kinds of different ways, but I go with that star rating in that way. So I don't like kind of weighing my stars in the way that maybe people weighed like school grades, where it's like if you're less than 80, let's say that's like a 4 star, it's not that great, it's maybe lacking. I don't believe in that at all. Yeah, I don't really like doing the star rating thing, but over the years I've had some people say to me, hey, why don't you do star ratings? How do I know if you liked a movie or not if you didn't write a review? So I figure that's just what I'm going to go with. And if you look at like my Letterboxd ratings, like the thing that has the weight of all of everything in the graph, a 3-star rating is my most prominent rating. It's 28% of my ratings, but then 17% is 2 stars, and then 16% is 3.5. So, take the good with the bad, I guess. But yeah, I try to be really fair. Like, I don't want to rate anything 2.5 stars unless I'm really, like, grappling with it. Like, one day it could change, It could be on the cusp of 3 stars, but something isn't quite right. So if you ever see me rating something 2.5 stars, think of it as, like, the mildest of mild recommendations, but it would ultimately be a thumbs down. But yeah, if you have any questions for me about the podcast, ratings, anything at all, do what this listener did. Send an email to cinema5kpod@gmail.com. Now, let's get to the movies. The first movie I'm going to talk to you about is Abby from 1974, directed by William Girdler. The tagline is, Abby doesn't need a man anymore. The devil is her lover now. When a minister's wife becomes possessed by Ishu, the Nigerian god of sexuality, an exorcist is called in to drive the evil spirit away. This stars William Marshall, who you might recognize as Blackula. He plays Bishop Garnet Williams, who is trying to help out Reverend Emmett Williams, played by Terry Carter, because his wife, Abby Williams, played by Carol Speed, has been possessed by this evil spirit. And she is not acting the same. Now, Abby is a pretty even-keeled woman. She seems like, pretty ordinary, wife. And things are just not right. She's doing things. She's going out on the town. She's looking for a good time. She's acting out. Now, this is most definitely a movie that is a blaxploitation film, a take on The Exorcist. It is, of course, a B movie. It's low budget and such, but I found this to be a pretty entertaining time, and it doesn't deal a lot with, like, oppression of, like, sexuality and this housewife thing of, Abby trying to act out in ways that she can't normally because of her husband and her life and her marriage. It only slightly touches in that, because this more so is like about making a horror film and having a good time. There's so many things that will remind you of The Exorcist for sure. I ended up watching this on Plex, and the reason I watched it is because there's this one TikToker that I quite enjoy his takes on horror films. His name is Davis, and I saw him recommend Abby when he was like sort of celebrating like watching 1,000 horror movies total, and shout out to Davis. I really enjoy your videos, and I enjoyed Abby. I'm glad you brought it up. Like, this was something that just sounded like up my alley, and it was very satisfying. And one thing I will mention about it, when I say it is low budget, I think basically the copy I watched on Plex, which is kind of akin to Tubi, was maybe a VHS rip of some sort, because it looked awfully terrible, and I will say that might be the best way to watch it. I was reminded of my experience of watching the movie The Evil Dead for the first time when I was a teenager, where I tried to watch it on VHS at night alone when my family was not around, and the tracking of the VHS, if you remember tracking, which you had to adjust, and the bad video quality in general just made it all the more spooky, and I had to shut it off because I was so scared. And now Abby maybe isn't so scary in those ways, at least for me, but I found it very entertaining and fun. Kind of a fun take on The Exorcist, of course, and the way it's shot is pretty well done. It feels like a movie that just had a low budget. It just so happens it had a low budget. It wasn't necessarily made to be light in its impact, and I found plenty of it to be interesting and compelling, even when it wasn't really doing anything I hadn't seen before. So I've got to recommend Abby from 1974, directed by William Girdler. I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, so that's a good one. It's a thumbs up for me. And yeah, if you haven't seen Blackula, I've only seen the second Blackula, Blackula Scream, but it's a fun one. I'm gonna have to watch the original Blackula. Let's put it on my Letterboxd watch list. In fact, where can I watch it? Letterboxd is having problems. That's okay. Let's try it again. It is on Tubi, so I think Blackula will be in a future episode, and we'll talk about it then. Okay, up next we have Miley Cyrus, Something Beautiful from 2025, directed by Miley Cyrus, Jacob Bixenman, Brendan Walter. So why did I watch this Miley Cyrus visual album feature? It is on Disney Plus. It's also on Hulu. I specifically watched it because the filmmaker Panos Cosmatos is involved in producing this project. Who is Panos Cosmatos? Well, he did the film The Viewing for the Guillermo del Toro, what is it, the creature feature thing? Let me get the full name of it. Oh, I had it in front of me. Well, he did that. It's a series on Netflix that had a number of filmmakers doing, shorter length narrative films that are all horror focused. And his film, The Viewing, is quite freaky. Another movie you might have heard of that he directed is called Beyond the Black Rainbow. And he also directed the 2018 film Mandy, which I am quite fond of. So knowing that Panos Cosmatos was working with Miley Cyrus, I was just like, I have to watch this. But is it any good? Well, I have to say, I found a lot of the music leaving something to be desired as far as its production in conjunction with the lyrical content of what this is really saying. My impression is that Miley is just like really talking about being in love again. She has a new partner and she's happy in life and she's starting anew. I've seen some press discussion about like her angle of how she was doing works before and now what she's maybe coming out of in her, whatever progression has been happening with her career. I admittedly don't know much about her career, truly, like what her angle is as an artist. I mean, I just see her as a pop star who, tries to have fun on stage and show off and do pop star stuff, nothing too ridiculous. Over the years, she has received a lot of scrutiny, of course, coming out of the shadow of the Hannah Montana stuff she's done. And I'm not really familiar with her works beyond the singles she's done over the years, and that includes Hannah Montana, despite the fact that I have seen Hannah Montana the movie. I in fact went to the theater and saw it with the young girl I was babysitting at the time because she asked to go. We both did not enjoy our time, but I've never actually seen the Hannah Montana show. Regardless, I know who Miley Cyrus is. I'm familiar with her music through the singles, but not as like a collective album thing. So I have to say, unfortunately, the music just kind of left something to be desired. And then with the actual visual stuff that this movie is conveying in conjunction with the music and the lyrics also left me feeling like it was a little empty. Like there's attempts at things, and I have to say the best thing is, I think the song is called End of the World. Like Miley's just dancing around with the mic and laying on the floor, and she's got a fun green dress on. Like that's shot well and it's good, and that's probably the best song more or less that I've heard from the album. If this is all 13 songs, if I can remember, it probably is, but unfortunately some of them just didn't really leave me the best impression. The Walk of Fame part, that song, I don't know. Something isn't like right with that one. It just feels a little incomplete, and I think the visuals for that one too feel like a little trite. Like it's kind of all been done before. And there's this song that Miley Cyrus does. I gotta look this up. Miley Cyrus and Naomi Campbell. What is this? What is this song? Is it Every Girl You've Ever Loved? Okay. Every Girl You Ever Loved. I think it's bad. I think the song is bad. I think the visuals that go with the song are really bad as well. And I was like ready for it to be over when that song came, and it still had like maybe 1 or 2 songs left to go. I don't know. This is just something not for me. Like I gave it a shot because I saw who was involved in working with Miley, and like I don't have any like negative or overly positive feelings about Miley Cyrus. Like I admire that like she's like come through like this industry and still got it, because it is very difficult, and who knows what kind of hell she's been through with trying to just establish herself and be taken seriously. But this is just a no for me. It's not really for me. Like I can give this 2.5 stars because I had a definite feeling of not really being satisfied by it and wanting something better. Something more than this just being something beautiful, because for me it was in fact something not very satisfying. But I had to give this 2 stars. It's not a waste of time if you're a Miley Cyrus fan. Of course not. You're probably really gonna enjoy this, and if you like her album, sure. But it's not working for me. So yeah, unfortunately that is the rating. I don't know. It's like there was some ideas here, but it all just kind of didn't really gel, and it kind of felt like I've seen some of this stuff before, and if maybe that's the point. But regardless, I don't know. I could have spent 54 minutes of my time better doing something else, I guess. I hate to say it. But another shortish film that I watched is The Universe Is Out There, Josh and Benny Safdie from 2017, directed by Michael Chaykin. This is a 55-minute Meet the Filmmakers documentary that you can watch right now on the Criterion channel. There is no tagline, but the summary goes like this. Get to know the siblings whose films have captured the skittering pulse of New York City's streets. An original documentary featuring footage from the making of their new thriller, Good Time, along with several of the brothers' early features and shorts, produced by the Criterion channel for their Meet the Filmmakers series. I say definitely give this one a shot. This is a glimpse at Josh and Benny Safdie right on the verge of them having their latest film in the year 2017 breakout, and A Good Time was a good time. I enjoyed that film. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We get a behind the scenes glimpse about the filmmaking process for that, and then all the inspirations that kind of brought the brothers to where they are. And now Josh and Benny Safdie are unfortunately separated, but I think just for a temporary thing. They're both making films on their own. Benny Safdie's next film, The Smashing Machine, comes out later this year, and Josh Safdie's film, Marty Supreme, comes out later this year as well. But when they were just working together, getting into the works of Good Time, they did a recollective sort of talk about, through this film, not like a sit-down talk, but they are talking in this documentary about the work they've done with Ron Bronstein, the film Daddy Longlegs, and then their film Heaven Knows What, and the shorts they've done over the years, like The Pleasure of Being Robbed. And I've seen some of their short films, and I have to tell you, I have had a inadvertent run-in with the Safdie brothers. The year was 2005. I was a volunteer at the Independent Film Festival of Boston, and there were these two young gentlemen who were running around the film festival in red suits. And I was thinking to myself, well, those young men must be filmmakers, because who would run around this film festival that's only been around for a couple of years in a red suit otherwise? And sure enough, it was Josh and Benny Safdie, because they both were students in Boston in college, and one of their short films played at the Independent Film Festival of Boston. So I knew for sure who they were beyond that moment, when a couple of years later, and I saw them on TV, and I was like, oh my God, it's those kids from the Independent Film Festival of Boston who were running around in their red suits. It's been really great to watch Josh and Benny Safdie emerge as filmmakers, and now Benny Safdie has been acting. Like, he's in Good Time, he has a supporting part, and he was recently in Oppenheimer, you might remember, until they make a bigger bomb, you know? So if you are familiar with their works and like their works, or maybe don't, it's interesting to see like where they came from and how their experiences and people they've interacted with have shaped who they are as filmmakers and the stories they want to tell. So check this out. I'm definitely going to check out some other Meet the Filmmakers documentaries that are on the Criterion channel, because I think I've maybe watched another one. I don't know if the Paul Schrader one counts, if that's still on there. I don't think it does, but I'll check out the other ones. Regardless, the universe is out there. Josh and Benny Safdie, a Meet the Filmmakers documentary that you can watch on the Criterion channel. Gave it 3 stars. Give it a look. It's only 55 minutes. It's 1 minute longer than Miley Cyrus. Next, we have Enigma from 2025, directed by Zachary Drucker. The tagline is "Choose Your Destiny." 2 legends contested their identities as women in the courts of public opinion. April Ashley, who was immortalized as a trailblazer by embracing her transgender history, and Amanda Lear, who has consciously denied and obfuscated her history for decades. Their divergent paths reveal a disparate but intertwined legacies. So April Ashley and Amanda Lear got their start in a nightclub scene in Paris, and I want to say in parts of Europe as well, but I think specifically Paris. Maybe it was just Paris. This movie kind of jumps around between London and France and such a number of times to tell the tale of these 2 different women, but they have something in common in that they are both transgender icons. But I have to put in a disclaimer here. Amanda Lear was not happy with this documentary and the way she was portrayed, and I really can't blame her, because there is such a really unfortunate focus in this documentary, not about her creativity and who she is as a performer, and to really talk about the invention of herself as being this like awesome thing, because I think who she is as like a disco performer is really interesting. And this movie instead just like falls back on old interview footage that have happened for decades, where people question Amanda Lear's gender, and I find that to be like really frustrating for a documentary to have such a like central focus on that for this performer and not get to other stuff that might be more interesting in her life. It only briefly talks about like the lyrical content in her songs and how that maybe talks about her identity, like only partially. And I think this movie could have been aided greatly by having more people talk about Amanda Lear's history, more people to talk about her works and how she's like come up through the decades, and she's even been in movies and such. And it feels like she's slighted to instead lean against this narrative that she's someone who has denied who she really has been, if it's like a bad thing or something. And I don't know. That rubs me rather the wrong way. And knowing that Amanda Lear wasn't happy with this documentary, I think is really important to know, and really something you should take into watching this. On the flip side, though, I think April Ashley, who has unfortunately now passed away, I think she passed away in 2021. I think she's a really fascinating figure, and also the way she talks about her life and the things she had to overcome is really tragic and really beautiful. Like, she's so illuminating. I would absolutely love to see like a narrative film to portray April Ashley. I think that would be so beautiful. Just something like really, oh man, just like, she's been through so much, and I found her story just to be so like, you know, it feels like something out of the movies. And the way she talks about her life and the things she experienced, I just found her to be just a fascinating subject. And it doesn't surprise me that this is not the first documentary that she's been featured in. But pairing April Ashley's story with Amanda Lear, yes, they were from the same scene and they're connected. And Amanda Lear has said some things about April Ashley that weren't so favorable. But just the way that Amanda Lear's interviews are handled, I just was really not a fan of for this documentary. The phrase that I've seen on Letterboxd that sort of fits what this movie's doing to Amanda Lear is what they have said. I don't know if this is like a common term, but like transvestigating her, which I don't think is fair at all. She's a trans woman. Yeah, but why can't we just let her be a woman too? Because she's a very successful woman regardless of what her origins are. So I had to give this 2 stars because it just really rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like how this was handled, and I questioned the focus of this. Like, having a focus of Amanda Lear like that and having these constant questionings of who she is that were from like mainstream resources. Can't we just let her exist? Can't we just see her through the lens of her being a woman instead of like her existing outside of norms as if she's like some kind of bad person, because she's really not. I think that's such a disservice to who she is as a performer and what she's contributed to the music world and beyond. So Enigma from 2025, directed by Zachary Drucker. I unfortunately just had to give this one 2 stars because knowing what kinds of things Amanda has said about this, and then watching the documentary myself, it's really a bummer, you know? Like, it didn't have to be this way, and it does kind of feel meager in like after the fact, after watching it, like how there's so many things we could have said and discussed about these 2 different women without making it be, well, this woman here has kind of denied her identity forever, like it's some kind of problem. It's concerning, and I get why they want to do that for this, because it's kind of been the narrative in some ways, but is that a narrative Amanda controls? I don't know. Why do we have to lean into that? So yeah, unfortunately. If you want to watch Enigma, you can watch it on HBO Max. And the weird coincidence is that a couple years ago, there was this Coco Mademoiselle commercial that came out with Amanda Lear's song Follow Me in it. And I knew the song and I could not remember where I had heard it before. And then like 2 months ago, I saw the commercial again and I was like, oh my gosh, like what is that song? And I look it up and it's Amanda Lear. And then I hear about this documentary, Enigma, featuring Amanda Lear. And I'm like, wow, everything's coming full circle. So if you don't want to watch this documentary, I don't blame you. Listen to some Amanda Lear music, because she does Italian disco and it's like 70s Italian disco. It's fun. I really dig it. And she seems like a cool chick, you know, for all that she's been through. And yeah, maybe she is a polarizing figure in some respect, but yeah, I'm a fan of Italian disco. So all right. But more music, not a documentary, but a film. It's Opus from 2025, directed by Mark Anthony Green. The tagline is a once in a lifetime experience. A young writer is invited to the remote compound of a legendary pop star who mysteriously disappeared 30 years ago. Surrounded by the star's cult of sycophants and intoxicated journalists, she finds herself in the middle of his twisted plan. This stars Ayo Edebiri as April. April is a young journalist who has been invited, along with her boss, Stan, who's played by Murray Bartlett, to experience the new music Moretti, the pop star. The pop star Moretti is played by John Malkovich, and he's supposed to be, to use another word, an enigma. Hasn't made music in decades, but people have been fascinated by him. And they say his music is bad, but they still like it. And I have to say, all the music in the movie is bad. Like, I really didn't like any of it. That's a taste thing. I can let that slide. But the movie surrounding this is just such a typical kind of culty figurehead kind of thing, hero worship kind of story where bad things happen. And it's really not doing anything new at all. The movie, when it starts out, some of the dialogue used to describe what was going on with April and her job was just really bad. And then the scripting never got any better. Everything to do with Moretti was trying to be like a little bit edgy and out there, like, ooh, why are these people doing these weird things? And I found it all a bit dull. None of it really built any tension that I kind of needed to feel like on behalf of April and the other people who are experiencing these odd behaviors of the folks who are all within the compound of Moretti and all worship him and do his bidding, you know? And then as it progressed, you know, people start to disappear, and it's kind of like, yeah, we thought that was going to happen. It's like dwindling down all those invited to the final last survivors. Like, who will get through the process of experiencing Moretti and his new project? I found this to be a bit of a bummer and dull and not exciting, not intriguing, and bad scripting. And I was just left wondering what was the point of all this, because its eventual sort of semi-twist ending was just so preposterous. And even when I could try to, you know, piece together how that connected to the beginning of the film, I just wasn't buying it. I found this to be just a bit of a waste of time. It's unfortunately a very redundant film in its ideas and not really saying anything new, nothing I haven't really seen before, and its scripting and how it goes about outlining the progression of the Moretti experience. I really didn't care for this. I thought this was a huge waste of time. It seems like there's a lot of heft and weight and, you know, meaning behind what could happen here that is missing completely. It's supposed to be shocking, and it's just not shocking. It's just kind of like, yeah, I've seen movies like this before. And if you haven't seen movies like this before, I don't know, maybe you'll find this entertaining, but I thought most of us saw The Menu when it came out just a couple years ago. And even so, this kind of cult thing has like happened before. And I mean, you go way back to even knowing about the story of like Jonestown. Man, it's like, it's not a happy picture. And I don't expect this to be a happy film anyway, but at least give me some intrigue, something to think about, some kind of subtext beyond the experience of what April has to go on, and leave it to be more than just John Malkovich kind of twisting some words here and there to talk about his followers and such. What a disappointment. I mean, I didn't even go into this with like a heavy, like, ooh, this is going to be good, or ooh, I've heard this was bad experience. I was kind of just like, yeah, I'll watch this. I went into it very like neutral, and I found it so disappointing on so many levels. Like, movies in this day and age that are about this kind of subject matter should be so much more interesting and not so shallow in what they're trying to tell us about hero worship and the creative process and whatever's going on here. I don't want to spoil it, but I just found this to be, man, it's like there's one moment that is supposed to happen here that's supposed to be like really like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's happening. And I was just like, really, that's it? You can push the envelope a bit more, filmmakers. I promise you, audiences are in need of that. But Opus from 2025, directed by Mark Anthony Green. What a waste of time. I feel bad for Ayo Edebiri because she could have done so much more with this part. I just found like she didn't really have much at all to do here. And she's the kind of performer where, because the camera like loves her face and she's just such a like easy person to watch on screen. Like, she has a natural charm. Like, she has that thing. She could do everything, anything. Like, she could star in I think of it like she could do an action film if she wanted to. She could have some fun, you know? I don't know about her doing like a very deeply serious project, but at the same time, I think she should do anything she wants. I can understand though how she would be into doing a project like this because she is playing that younger individual who is like the central person who gets to interact with Moretti. And it's really about the two of them, even though he's not on screen a lot. It's about the dynamic between the performer and then the young person. And yeah, I'm saying too much. But I want better things for her. I want better movies because so far I do not think I have seen her in a good movie yet. Like, voice performances don't count. That's not what I'm saying. Well, she is in theater camp, but that's just a goofy parody, you know. That's nothing with like heft. That's not something that really is saying she's an actor. It's more so like that's a movie she kind of, you could surmise it as she made it on a weekend with her friends, you know, that kind of thing. I want better things for her. I want better movies. I want better things than Opus, like I said. So 1 star for this one. Yeah, that's my definite thumbs down. That's my don't even bother. Oh boy, unless you want to see it. It is available on HBO Max, much like Enigma. Yeah, this is just not, it doesn't have like much of anything to say, and it's not intriguing. It is a waste of time. But that is the episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to send an email, as I said before, cinema5kpod@gmail.com. cinema5000.com is the website. That's where links are. That's where the blog is. And if you're on YouTube, look up Cinema 5000 Podcast. That's where I upload episodes with images for some fun. And if you're on Bluesky, follow along. Cinema 5000 on Bluesky. Again, my name is Mallory. This is my podcast. I talk about all the stuff. On the next episode, I guarantee you, I'll be seeing Superman. So, other than that, I'm not sure. You know, anything's possible. There's a lot of movies out there I own that I have not watched yet. And then there's more movies coming to streaming all the time. Possibilities are endless. But we'll talk about all that stuff on the next episode. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.